the 12 Star Fairies.
The Kungak of the Gyeongbokgung Palace. Looking at the eastern part of the royal residence bedchamber hall area, from the Gyeongbokgung Palace, you can find Gyeongjeon Hall, a remnant of the old times. It is a building that was used for a Queen Dowager and that was inscribed with a variety of sculptures on the fence and chimneys to pray for long living, adding to the novel atmosphere. Not only a country, but even a small enterprise can be a long-lasting nation dynasty and corporation by setting the right succession. In that sense, Jaseondang, which was the living and educational space of the crown prince and the princess, was a very important place in the Gyeongbokgung Palace. Dongung Palace was not built at the same time of foundation of the Gyeongbokgung Palace, but the time of a ruling period of the King Sejong. This was also the place where the King Munjong gave birth to the star-crossed King Danjong. Looking at west from the royal residence bedchamber hall area, the place called Flowers of the Gyeongbokgung Palace appears. That is Gyeonghwaeru, which is famous for its breathtaking night view with a huge pavilion standing vacantly on the blue pond. Gyeonghwae, from the name of the Gyeonghwaeru, means meeting each other by mutual virtue between sovereign and subject. It is said sometimes a banquet was held between the king and his subjects, and foreign ambassadors were hosted here. It was our only small pavilion at the same time of the foundation of the Gyeongbokgung Palace, but at the same time of Taejong, it was made bigger to the same size as the present by digging pond. Rather than merely a place for banquets, it was a place like an all-rounder, where the right for reign and the military service examination was taken. Is it because the landscape was beautiful and splendid? The tragic event among the historical events were sometimes occurred in the background of the Gyeonghwaeru. The frenzy of banquets were held here, and the Suyang Daegung, Grand Prince Suyang, got the royal seal out of the King Danjong here. Considering that Gyeonghwaeru was a place of tragedy because of its gorgeousness, our lives are the same as this. The more you are longing for a brilliant life and a higher place, the more likely losing your precious things one by one. Like a calm lake surrounding the Gyeonghwaeru, we can take a break once to look back on our own lives. In the most northern part of the Gyeongbokgung Palace, there is a secluded place where the tragedy and confusion of the end of the Joseon dynasty remain intact. It is Gyeongbokgung Palace, where the breath of the Emperor Gojong and his wife Emperor Myeongseong is ingrained. Gyeongbokgung Palace was built for the purpose of holding portraits of kings of the Joseon dynasty, 5 years after the Gyeongbokgung Palace was reconstructed. However, the Emperor Gojong and the Emperor Myeongseong often took a rest here since they liked the cozy and comfortable scenery of this palace. Although the Gyeongbokgung Palace was built as a rest area, eventually it became a place of the political tragedy. This was the area where the Empress Myeongseong was murdered, and the Emperor Gojong had reluctant interviews with the US, British, and Russian diplomatic ministers many times. Jangandang in the Gyeongbokgung Palace has a meaning of peaceful for the long time as a royal bedchamber hall for the Emperor Gojong. It was built as the concept of the reception room and the first place in Korea where the lights were turned on. At the time of the Eulmi incident, Eulmi 사변, It was destined to be the place of misfortune where the Empire Gojong was detained. Gunyeongbokgung Hall, which was the royal bedchamber for the Empress Myeongsang, expressed the virtue of the queen in the meaning that the land is peaceful. However, being ashamed of the name, the Empress Myeongsang was assassinated in Okhoru, the southern pavilion of the Gyeongbokgung Hall. There occurred a tragedy in which the mother of country were killed by the assassin from another country. In the backyard of the Gyeongbokgung Palace is there another beautiful pavilion with a pond. It is Gyeongbokgung, which means the fragrance spread far away. As the name suggests, the pavilion with two-story hexagon roof is blended beautifully with the surrounding scenery. The bridge across the pond is Chihyangyo Bridge, meaning of being lost in the fragrance. It is said that it is the longest wooden bridge crossing the pond during the Joseon dynasty. Looking at it for a moment, we are losing in the surrounding landscape consist of the bridge, the pavilion, and the pond with the colorful trees. In the outer part of the northern west side of the Gyeongbokgung Palace is their Taewonjeon Hall, hanging in the solemn and sacred atmosphere. It is the building that houses the portrait of Taejo Iseongge, who founded the Joseon dynasty and that enacted ancestral ritual with keeping portrait and coffin of the deceased of the royal family. The lives and trace of many kings of the Joseon dynasty remain in the Gyeongbokgung Palace. The responsibility and the burden they feel while taking care of their affairs, finding affection in the family and proudness as a king, are the things we are able to meet and talk with through looking close into the Gyeongbokgung Palace. Let's have conversation with them continually, while enjoying the same warm sunshine that they had at that time.